Today we look at the lighter side of slashing up teenagers. Hello and welcome to Rotted Review of the Day, and today I am taking a look at the 2019 movie Clown. Directed by Eric Forsberg, this movie is, you might get the sense of what it might be like by looking at his filmography as a director. It's one of those where you take an established franchise that is popular and lucrative and then find a way to strip it down, genericize it, take the concept and put out a low budget, loose, not even adaptation, but just kind of getting in on the trend type of movie. He has like Alien Abduction, Torture Room, things like that. And based on that, I honestly thought that when I first started watching this, I really thought I was expecting something where the lighting was washed out and the camera was always at eye level, straight on, and nobody knew how to pan, and the microphone was barely picking up any of the actors. And I was really surprised because when I first started this movie, the first 20, 30 seconds or so, I was like, this is actually, could be quite adept. Maybe not a great movie, but still, it seemed to have a professional polish to it. The camera angles, the production quality. And then I had the unfortunate experience of going past the 20-second mark and actually getting into the movie itself. I should say, first off, I don't like clowns. They're not my favorite thing in the world, to say the least. However, feel free to comment if you're in the same boat as I am. The whole concept of killer clowns and the ones with the sharp fangs and the Pennywise-esque kind of stuff, I think they're interesting, but they don't scare me. What is about clowns that scare me are just the normal painted face, getting up in your face as a child kind of thing. How are you doing, little boy? No, thank you. But regardless, this movie, just on a plot level here, there's a small town out in the desert that 25 years ago, you get the sense that a circus moved into town and the local townsfolk were influenced by a preacher to kill them all. And in doing so, the town shutters its doors and enters into the annals of history and is now a ghost town. And now, 25 years later, enter in a group of teenagers that are on their way to a music festival, take a shortcut, get lost, and find themselves stumbling into this town in a very, very way too drawn out sequence. They find themselves stumbling into this town and come to find out that one of the clowns who was a child at the time survived and has now built this funhouse torture chamber, basically meat grinder for any teenagers that happen to stumble into it. That's pretty much what the plot is, and then just kind of press play from there as far as the slaughter goes. There were a lot of points to this movie in which I was watching it and I was thinking to myself, well, that part didn't work. How would I go about fixing that? Well, you could do this instead. And I got to the point where I did that so often. It's like, well, that thing didn't work there, but it could have been easily fixed if it had done this tweak here. I did that so often that it finally was like, you know what? I would have done an entirely different movie. So none of this really worked. I'm going to go ahead and throw up the scores here. 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. Dave Kleck played the character of Thoth the Clown, and he was honestly one of the best parts of this, and I don't know if that was necessarily a performance thing or a makeup thing, but just him on a straight face, animosity showing through the eyes kind of level, it actually worked for me. But anytime he tried to jump into some goofy, reveling in the cat and mouse game that he had developed, it just kind of broke the character for me a bit. But just the straight on, hating the teenagers kind of thing that was honestly, 90% of the performance, it actually was quite intimidating and quite, maybe not terrifying, but dreadful in a great way. But that was honestly the best part of the movie. The whole concept of the funhouse which was 90% of the setting of this movie, it served no real purpose that I could see as far as maintaining realism and a narrative flow through. First of all, you get the sense that they're trapped in there, they can't get out, they're deep into the ground, they enter into it from a cave, but even so, it's like it seems to be all plywood-esque stuff where you can see sunlight peeking through. It's like break through the walls, and there's a voiceover that happens constantly. It's like this voice on the speaker. Thoth the Clown doesn't actually say anything, but that doesn't stop a disembodied head over the loudspeakers constantly mocking the teenagers. And there was like, this is steel reinforced, there's no exit. It's like, it kind of seems like it's made of wood and you're right near the outside, just break through. But regardless, let's take it at its word and just say that it's reinforced steel that looks like wood. Even so, the whole concept of the funhouse was they were going through these tunnels, for lack of a better word, these chambers, and the walls were constantly able to change through a complex series of mechanisms that somehow Thoth the Clown was a mechanical engineer. And everything about it was fairly unrealistic, but I think honestly one of the worst things about this movie is not the terrible acting, not the bad effects, not the incomprehensible storyline. It was honestly the visual tone of the funhouse itself. It made it so that you never really knew in any concept of space where any of the characters were in relation to each other, in relation to the individual hallways they were in, and certainly within the entirety of the funhouse. So ultimately, it just kind of made for a mess where 25 minutes in, characters running around was exactly the same as an hour and 15 minutes in, characters running around. It visually had no difference. And one of the things that really could have saved this a little bit more is to have the concept of going deeper and deeper, kind of the whole, levels of hell kind of thing, where each unique section of the funhouse had its own unique visual tone. This portion here where they first enter in may have green lights and this kind of wall backing, and then by the time you get towards the end of it, there might be red ambient light and this other type of wall backing. It would have allowed for a little bit better of a visual tone and a frame of geographical reference for the audience, and would have made it a lot less bland. So, that being said, the whole concept was kind of loose from the get-go, and if you watch this movie and you select it, right now it's currently available for rent or purchase on Amazon Prime, and you generally know what you're getting yourself into, but that does not a great movie make. And honestly, after watching it and after looking at the plot and the intention scores, especially, I really can't say that I recommend this movie on any level. It had a few twists, had a few surprises, but every time it had something that surprised me and got my interest piqued, it did something so ludicrous that it just broke the immersion, and I found myself wondering why in the world I was watching this outside of having a horror movie review channel. So yeah, I really can't recommend this one. It's not a great movie. It's not a good movie. It's not a movie really worth watching. And let's be honest, you knew that from the get-go. So that should about do it. That's my review of 2019's Clown. Thank you very much for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. If you like these videos, please click like and subscribe. And if you want to support me further, my Patreon link is below. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.